Hello my friends, Andy here for What Culture Wrestling, back again with another episode of What Went Wrong, the series in which we take someone who looked like an absolute sure thing in wrestling and figure out why exactly the whole thing went tits up. Today we're going to discuss a guy who probably sits quite highly on a lot of your lists of favourite wrestlers, Finn Balor, who is currently doing bugger all on Monday Night Raw. The affable Irishman is but a faceless mid-carder in a sea full of them, and this is despite his incredible popularity and an awesome first few years with the company that appeared to set him up as a future megastar. But it hasn't worked out that way at all, and there are a number of reasons for this as we're about to dive into. So with that in mind, I'm Andy for What Culture Wrestling, and this is Finn Balor in WWE, What Went Wrong. The wrestler formerly known as Prince Devitt arrived in WWE on a wave of hype back in 2014. He was one of Triple H's first big indie signings, and he came in on the back of an incredible global run spanning Europe, Japan and beyond. His impact on the ongoing surge the European indies are still experiencing years after his departure cannot be overstated, as Balor was an immensely important figure in helping drag those scenes out of the gutter and towards the spotlight in the first place. Before, the UK indie scene in particular was a backwater of half-empty social clubs, and now companies like Progress can run Wembley Arena. Now, Balor wasn't the only reason behind this, but he was a big influence on one of the main players, at least in the ring. In New Japan, he was not only a transformational figure who formed Bullet Club and enjoyed several championship reigns, but a guy who legitimately redefined the very concept of a foreign heel in Japan. Balor and his gang of rowdy foreigners changed the game in NJPW, and this led to hope he'd do the same in WWE, and for a while, he did. You'd be hard-pressed to argue that anyone other than Finn Balor is the single most important male wrestler in NXT history. Such was his impact on the developmental brand. He was champion for a long time, putting on strings of great matches and angles with the likes of Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe, but his influence runs deeper than that. Balor was NXT's franchise player during its creative peak and helped oversee the brand's transition from mere developmental territory to a viable third brand. Universal popularity followed, and in the Demon he not only had a cool gimmick, but a vehicle to showcase the outstanding creativity that helped make him such a force on the indies in the first place. His success was palpable, and in a frankly shocking move, it actually followed him to the main roster immediately, where he became a major player just 1 month after his call-up. Drafted in July 2016, Balor blitzed through a tournament in order to crown the new Universal Champion, and he earned the right to face Seth Rollins for the big red belt at SummerSlam. Balor was victorious. He triumphed against all odds and immediately cemented himself as Raw's top dog, but as we all know now, disaster was just around the corner. A torn labrum suffered during the match meant Finn was forced to relinquish his new prize just 22 hours after winning it, and suddenly, right after the biggest triumph of his career, he was staring down the barrel of an 8-month absence. Torn from the spotlight at the worst possible moment, Balor has never quite returned to that old level since returning to action in April 2017. Somewhere along the line, Vince McMahon just lost faith in him, where once the chairman looked to install him as Raw's top champion, he was now indulging in turgid feuds with the likes of Bray Wyatt, Kane and Elias. I mean, we almost saw this guy dressed as a pumpkin wrestling Sister Abigail. Sister bloody Abigail, oh yeah, and he lost to Kane. For sake. Balor never got the Universal title match he probably should have been entitled to. Now, he has wrestled for the Intercontinental belt several times, but he's never won it despite having several great matches along the way. Instead, Balor became a mid-card spot filler. He's had some fun moments along the way, particularly when Balor Club were around, but let's be honest, he's probably never going to be the star his biggest fans want him to be. The death knell was sounded in late last year when Vince McMahon supposedly pulled Finn from a pitched Universal title program with Brock Lesnar. And why? Because apparently the chairman didn't think he was over enough. But a lack of push is only part of Balor's problem here, and honestly, what they've done to the man's character might be the biggest issue of all. Ask yourself this: who is Finn Balor the character? What defines this man? What makes him tick? What are his key personality traits? The answer to all of this is just kind of nothing. There's no more to his character than a smiley Irish nice guy who keeps himself in great shape and gets bullied by tall boys, and that's the extent of it. More often than not, Balor is made to look like a typical WWE babyface goober. Now, a lack of character depth is a problem across the board, but his case is particularly bad, and it's a real shame. WWE's presentation of Balor has been lackluster across the board, particularly during that awful Baron Corbin feud, during which they made a key point to emphasize his lack of height several times, burying him in canon as a tiny Irishman. But therein lies one of his biggest problems. WWE isn't quite the land of the giants it used to be, but Balor's 5'11", he's 190 pounds, he was always going to be swimming against the tide. Still though, Vince, you didn't need to typecast him, man. Stifling his inner creativity is a problem as well, but it was always going to happen on the main roster, where Vince and his team like to exercise complete control. Still though, if you look back on some of those old paint jobs he worked on the indies, they were a big reason for him getting over, and it would have been great to see him express himself just a little more in WWE. And I think we can all agree that ability in the ring certainly isn't a problem, as Finn has indeed proven himself an extraordinary man who does extraordinary things several times over and over again, as dumb as that nickname sounds whenever Michael Cole barks it out. But again, it all boils down to Vince McMahon no longer believing in him. Now, he clearly did at one point, otherwise he would have never made him Universal Champion, but he doesn't anymore, and that's why Finn Balor will never be the guy. That shoulder injury may well have played a role in all of this as well. Now, it would be extremely harsh for WWE to brand a guy injury prone after just one major problem, but when has this company ever been known for its fairness? Either way, whatever his reasons for it, it's impossible to break through when your boss doesn't believe in you, and at 37 years old, Finn Balor's time may never come. Get used to him as a mid-carder, folks, because this is probably where he's staying for the rest of his run. Anyway, guys, that's enough of my blabbering on. I'm looking forward to hearing your take on the subject. Do you think Finn Balor should be entitled to a bigger push in WWE? And if so, where do you think it's gone wrong for him? Let us know in the comment section below. And once you've done that, head on over to whatculture.com/WWE and check out all manner of great articles, including the very one this piece is based on. You'll find all kinds of great content from the likes of Benjamin Richardson, Michael Hamflett, Jamie Kennedy and Michael Sidgwick, and you will have a great time. I've been Andy, and I'll see you later.